All right, everyone, we are back for another episode of the Digital Toolbox. This is a podcast where we bring on guests that own home services businesses and they come on to tell their story, tell their uprising, and get some free digital marketing advice, which they can apply right now. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Our guest today is the owner of Mount Baker Window Washing and Cleaning. His name is Jackson Blackburn. Jackson, go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on, Manny. Yeah, I am the owner of Mount Baker Window Cleaning. We're based in Bellingham, Washington, and I've started that business in 2017. So I believe that this would be our seventh year in business. And boy, what a journey it has been.
Ooh, 7 years. And Jackson, you know what, man? Bring us through that. How did you get to this point where how did you start this company? Or even, you know what, let's go even a little bit before that. Before you started your company, what were you doing? Who was Jackson Blackburn?
Well, I would say that I grew up in Connecticut in a middle class family with an older mom. That my dad wasn't in the picture. We grew up in a very wealthy place, and we weren't very wealthy. My mom had been retired. Later on, she told me that we were on food stamps. We lived in a very
Oh,
small
wow.
old house. I believe it was 100. It's 100 years old now. It was actually shipped over from the Midwest on a train. I looked at an old receipt that was still around. You could buy this house for $2,000 back in 1920. They'd ship it from Chicago over to the East Coast, and that's the house that I grew up in, which is pretty neat. I think
They
actually the
shipped the house
floorboards.
itself?
What was that?
You said they ship a house over to you?
Yeah, they'd ship these pre-made, prefabbed houses out on trains back in the 1920s, and you could easily
Holy
pop it
shit.
together and erect it on a property. And there you go. There's a fully built home for you. It was $2,000. I found the receipt laying around somewhere.
Dude, that's awesome. I didn't even know that that was a thing back then. That's cool to hear.
Yeah, it was. And so, I grew up in this town in Connecticut until I was about, I would say, 17 before I left for college. And growing up in this town was very strange for me because I was so different than the other people growing up there. The norm was that you had rich parents, they had a lot of money. The dad worked in New York City. They sent you,
Oh,
on these vacations. They developed you as athletes into, the elite athletic programs that we had at the school. The football team was always in the state championship. The volleyball team didn't lose for 7 years in a row. And that was very much so not me. My dad wasn't in the photo. We definitely were on the lower income spectrum for where we were living. And all I wanted to do was ride mountain bikes and try and figure out how to snowboard. So it kind of pushed me out of the norm of the social groups that we had in our community there. And I remember there was a time where I could have kept playing baseball for high school or gone to the volleyball team. And I actually decided to start working at a hardware store around the corner from my home when I was 14 years old. I'm not even sure if it was legal, to be honest with you, being that young. But that was just the path that I took because I knew that if I was able to work at the hardware store, I'd be able to buy a mountain bike and maybe go buy a snowboard and then maybe my first car. And so that was the route that I took. And I started working from a very young age in a very manly environment at the hardware store. Those were like some of my first mentors were these old Italians at this hardware store. And, I don't know if they really gave me any good advice. A lot of it was just very raunchy and inappropriate, but it kind of shaped my later childhood until I was out the door. And I got out of Connecticut basically as fast as I could. I hightailed it to Washington State because there was a lot of things that I really resonated with in Washington. The fact that we have the Pacific Ocean, we've got these beautiful mountains with snow on them. It's home to some of the best mountain biking in the world. We've got lush forests, temperate rainforests, the Olympic Peninsula. You're right next to the border of Canada. And this town I found, Bellingham, Washington, just seemed like a dream. It was a small community, lots of mom and pop stores, lots of breweries, lots of good coffee, lots of cool people that like doing the things that I like doing. So for me, that was like the perfect escape out of this world in Connecticut that I didn't fully connect with.
wow, that's awesome. And so when you left to Washington, right, from Connecticut, you were how old? You were 18?
I was 17 at the time, I think. I probably turned 18 that summer.
that summer. And then, so did you leave by yourself, or did your parents come with you? Anybody else?
No, I left by myself. I didn't know a single person in
Wow.
Washington. I was probably one of the first people from my high school in the, 100 plus years of its existence to ever go to Washington. Definitely the first one to ever land in Bellingham. So, yeah, it was a solo journey for sure, and it was a little bit of a shot in the dark, but I knew that that was where I belonged. Like I had a yearning to be in this place called Bellingham that I'd never heard of
Wow,
until 6 months prior.
that's incredible. And so what made you like want to even go? Like, how did you even find Bellingham? Like, you took a flight from, or did you like drive across the country?
Man, this is such a wild story, actually, thinking back, because I forgot about this for a long time. People would ask me how I found it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I found it online. That's not true. My guidance counselor, who is like a very old lady working at this prestigious high school in Connecticut, just looked at me and she's like, I think you'd really like this school out in Bellingham, Washington, because they like
No.
to mountain bike and snowboard there. And I honestly threw it in the back burner for a while because this is kind of ridiculous. They didn't have a terrain park at the mountain, and I'm not sure if that's lingo that's going to go over your head, but there was a few things that were a little off, and so I was like, oh, I don't know. I think like people say snowboarding is really good in Colorado and like in Utah,
Yep.
but I didn't get into any of those schools, and I did get into this one. So I went for it. And now thinking back, I mean, I've been here for over a decade. I've made the best friends of my life here, and I'm just deeply rooted in Bellingham now. And I kind of owe it to this like guidance counselor from Connecticut, this old lady who knew nothing about mountain biking and snowboarding, who said, "Yeah, I think this would be a really interesting place for you." And now here I am. I'm just blown away still that she made probably the best call for my life that anyone else has made.
Wow. And that was just based off what you told her, right? I want to go snowboarding and I want to ride mountain bikes. And she mentioned Bellingham. That's
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy.
I know. I really owe her one. I've been meaning to write her some sort of letter and say, "Hey, thanks. I actually got kicked out of school really fast, but I stayed in Bellingham, so great job."
That's funny, man. And so you know what, Jackson? When all right, so you moved to Bellingham, right? You're there, you're living there. What do you do next? Do you get a job, or did you get into the trades? Like, did you work under somebody else?
Well, I started by going to school at Western Washington University, and within a year, I was academically dismissed. I did not want
Oh
to
wow.
do my schoolwork. I had no appetite for it. There wasn't a single major that was interesting to me at that point in my life that I wanted to dedicate that much time to. And so I got academically dismissed. And I remember, I'll never forget, I got the piece of paper in the mail and was reading it, and I go over the first couple lines, and it says Jackson Blackburn has been academically dismissed. And at first, my emotions are, oh boy, like this isn't good. And then within like 5 seconds, I just had a huge grin on my face because I knew that that meant that I could snowboard as much as I wanted to that year and just go find a job. And so it went from like extreme disappointment to, wait, this might be the best thing that's honestly ever happened to me. Just getting kicked out of school.
Holy shit. But then I would imagine, did you have any fear at all? Because like you're living in Washington, you're in a state that you're not from, the bills have to get paid. So what was kind of going through your head around that point?
Well, it was scary when they evicted me from the dorms and they gave me 3 hours to leave to get out of there. So I remember like instantly I called my friend. He came with his Jeep. I put everything I belonged in the back of his Jeep. I'd have to call him if I needed to change. Like, hey man, like, can you come bring my clothes in your Jeep? Like, I need to change my underwear. It was a scene. But eventually all my friends actually ended up getting kicked out as well. They're all like in the same friend circle as me. And none of us really wanted to do school. So they ended up getting kicked out too. And we ended up getting a house together. And then from there, we're getting jobs, right? We're figuring out where we're gonna work. And that moment started a very difficult cycle for me in life. And when I say that, don't get me wrong, I had a blast from the time that I was kicked out of school when I was 18, 19, whatever it happened, to 24, starting this window cleaning company. I went
Mhm.
on the wildest journey of having different seasonal jobs, traveling around, seeing new places, um, but it was very difficult. Like it was very, very hard for me. I didn't have like a lot of, financial backing. Like I didn't have a massive safety net. So it was hard. If I messed up, I'd feel the effect of that.
Wow. But then again, it did open. Isn't that funny how sometimes in life it's kind of like some of the most rewarding moments of life are kind of right on the edge to like if you mess up, like it's all like you're kind of fucked for a little bit, but you can always bounce back. But that's funny because you had the time of your life, but had you messed up or had you made a bad decision financially, then you kind of would have been screwed a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. But looking back on it, I wouldn't trade those years for anything because I really do think it taught me a lot of valuable lessons. I was able to see a lot of different businesses running. I was able to meet fascinating people from all over the United States and also some different parts of the world, and just gain so many experiences that I don't think a lot of people have when they do that traditional. I'm going to go to college for 4 years and then I'm going to get an internship and then I'm going to get a job and then I'm going to start a family. Like my life was completely different from that. It was completely flipped upside down. It was chaotic. It was sporadic, but I wouldn't trade it for the world because honestly, when I look back on those times, I was actually probably the happiest I've ever been in my life because I was just flying by the seat of my pant, right? Just anything goes, and I was just traveling with the wind. And there's something quite beautiful about that.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. Flying with the wind. What a way to say that. I like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so, Jackson, boom, you're 24 years old. What happens right before you begin Mount Baker window cleaning?
So I'd probably had the hardest summer of my life. I had the cops called on me twice over two different paychecks. One being a paycheck that I was supposed to receive from working on a fishing boat in Alaska, and that owner ended up having dementia and some Alzheimer's, and the captain left, and I thought I was going to die on this boat because it was from
Oh,
1990 or 1944. It was made out of wood. It was an original World War II cargo ship, and the captain is insane, or the owner is insane. The captain leaves and he puts me in charge and he's paying me pennies, right? And I have to drive. I've never driven a boat. So next thing you know, I'm in charge of this crew. I'm like
what the
24 years old on this massive 100-foot, 100-ton wooden warship in like the dangerous seas in Alaska. And I'm like, man, I need to get out of here. Like, I honestly think this thing's going to sink. I think it might have actually, who knows? But I ended up getting out, but they wouldn't pay me. And so I didn't get off the boat until they would pay me. The cops ended up getting involved. And then a week later, I go to this raft guiding company back in Bellingham, and uh, I work for this guy for 3 days. He pays me, and then a week later, I'm like, hey man, I gotta go. I got a job on this yacht in New Jersey that I gotta go jet to. So he calls the police and says that he gave me he like lent me the money over the weekend, like it was a forward in pay, and then I
wow.
owed it back to him. At which point I was, no, he paid me for the 3 days that I raft guided for him. So yeah, I had cops involved in paychecks in 2 weeks. And then I went to work on this boat in New Jersey. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And I came back home and I was just so defeated. Like I'd had the hardest summer of my life. I barely got paid for anything that I did. I worked my butt off all summer on this fishing boat, had a terrible experience in New Jersey on this yacht, got ripped off raft guiding, and was just at the end, right? Just like, what am I doing? This is not, something is not adding up here, and I can't keep living my life this way year after year. And I had a stepdad at that point who just looked at me and said, man, you need to start your own business. Like, you need to do something for yourself
Wow.
because you keep getting fired and you keep quitting. It's just it has been a pattern in my life. And, I was aware of it too. But the issue was, I said, hey, Robert, buddy, I don't have any money. I don't have a college experience. How am I going to, like, what do you, it's easy for you to say, start a business. Like, you've done it before. I have nothing right now. So, how do you expect me to do that? And then he told me a story. If you don't mind, I'd love to share it because I think it is incredible.
Yeah, the mic is yours, Jackson. Go
All
ahead, man.
right. So my stepdad Robert, I actually don't know where he is anymore. He vanished one day, literally into thin air. I don't even know what country he's living in. Anyways, he used to be a surf bum in Australia, so he was
A
probably around the
surf
same
bum.
age. A surf bum, yeah, he was a surf bum in Australia, on the Gold Coast, and he was probably the same age, like around 24 when I started Mount Baker window cleaning. And he told me the story. He goes, look, Jackson, I was in a similar time in my life. I wanted to spend time at the beach. I wanted to spend time surfing, and I wanted to pursue this professional surf career. I think he'd won a few competitions. Like he was pretty good back in the day. And he thought, how do I make money, but I can sit on the beach and surf? What does that look like for me? And I'm speaking, as if I'm Robert right now. And
Right.
so what he ended up doing is he saw all of these huge resorts getting built in the city he was living in, all these massive hotels. And he just thought, what if I could start a cleaning company and just go clean for every single one of these? The issue is every single one of these hotels already had a maid service that they were using. So what he did is he walked into every single one of these hotels and he said, look, I will clean for you for 2 weeks for free. And if you don't like it, you don't need to hire us. But if you do like it, I just ask that we can get a contract with you at the end. Every one of these hotels agreed. They said, yeah, 2 weeks of cleaning for free. Absolutely. Like, no brainer, done. He quickly assembled a team of maids. They went out, they cleaned for 2 weeks at every single one of these places. And not only did they get the contracts, but the hotels ended up paying for those 2 weeks. And within
Oh,
two
wow.
weeks, right, he had the largest maid service in the town he was living in. Just 2 weeks, all it took. Now he's got the
Holy
largest
shit.
maid service, and now he's sitting out on the beach, he's surfing, and he also had money to go fund other ventures, which he did down the road. But we don't need to get into that. But that story was really the information I needed to say to myself, okay, if he did that, if he was able to accomplish that in 2 weeks with nothing, like it didn't really cost any money, then there's certainly something that I can do.
Wow, that's a crazy that is a wild story actually. And where do you get the maids from to be able to service all of those resorts?
To surface the oh, so, I mean, I'm not sure where he did, to be honest, but
Like, holy shit.
I don't know. I'm sure it took some work to get around to go hire everyone for sure. Like it takes work, but he did it. Um, so yeah, it's just really inspirational. And I didn't want to do interior cleaning at all, like myself. I knew like that whatever I was going to start, I'd probably have to do to begin with.
Mm,
But I believe it was from working on these yachts. I worked in France on super yachts. If you've ever seen the show Below Deck, I did that, and I
wow.
had to clean windows on the yachts, and so I knew that it was something that I could do. And just looking around in Bellingham, where I'm living, I'm like, man, there's tons of windows out here. There's lots of opportunity for this. And I think I had a few friends that were also snowboarders who had started window cleaning companies because they're like, hey, you can clean windows, clean glass in the summer, and then you can take off for the winter to go snowboard. So I was like, hey, perfect. Like this is what I'm going to do. And so then I came back to Bellingham after this crazy summer and I started a window cleaning company.
Wow. And so how does that go? So you mentioned that you had friends that were doing the same thing, cleaning windows, and what was your first step? Were you like, did you right away get an LLC, or did you first try to see if you could even make it work and start knocking some doors, maybe offer some free service?
So I didn't get an LLC until 6 months in, probably. But the
Mm.
first thing that I did is I had my friend from high school draw me up a logo, which we changed. It was good. Thank you, Alec, if you're listening to this. Um, I had to make a logo, and then the next thing I did is I went to this print shop and I printed out a ton of these really thick index cards that had my cell phone number. I didn't have a business phone, right? It was my cell phone number, a few of the services that we offered, and a discount. I'm not sure what it said. Maybe it was as much as 35% off, which didn't mean much because I was making these prices off the top of my head at that time, right? So it didn't mean a whole lot, but I thought it'd be incentive for people. And after I got these index cards, I punched holes through them and I strung rubber bands around them. I would sit up all night punching holes and stringing rubber bands through these thick index cards. I later figured out what a door hanger was, which are fabulous. We use those now to this day. But all I had then, I didn't even know what that was, right? So I just had these index cards with rubber bands, and I spent an entire fall back in 2017 putting these on the doors in the neighborhoods that I wanted to work in. And I was
Mhm.
relentless. I hired my friends to do this with me. I like bums off the street. Not really, but like anyone who could help me, we were out there just walking around neighborhoods, stringing these things on doors.
Wow. Gotcha. And what was the return on investment on doing that?
I mean, it started my business. I don't think I wasn't keeping track. I didn't get into this with a lot of people who start a pressure washing or window cleaning business have had
Mhm.
business experience and they had this grand plan. Like, I'm going to start this business. I'm going to hire employees. I'm going to get off the truck. I'm going to work on sales. I had none of that. Like, you have to remember, I'm 24. I just want money to go snowboarding. Right. So like for me, I was like, if I make enough, I think when I got into the business, one of my friends said, "Hey, I can make $200 a day cleaning windows." And to me at that time, I was like, my eyes lit up. It's like, "Wow, really? Like, it's all yours? Amazing. Like, that sounds great." Fast forward to this day, there are many days that we're doing $7,000, $8,000 a day. It's funny though, because that I was like $200. Like, oh, I can go snowboard if I can go mountain bike. That's
I can
fine.
easily make that 200 last.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And back then I did. So yeah, that was the start of Mount Baker window cleaning in the fall of 2017.
Wow, man, that's an awesome story. And quick question then, what services were you offering then? And then what does that's offers like the services that you offer now look like?
When I first started, I called it Mount Baker window cleaning because I thought I would only be cleaning windows. In about 3 months, I've quickly realized that people need gutter cleaning, people need roof cleaning, people want pressure washing. And so quickly that fall, I'm renting pressure washers, I'm learning how to clean roofs, learning the best techniques, and I'm adding to this list of
Hmm.
of services. If I had known that, 3 months prior, I would have made my name something far different and probably wouldn't have pinpointed it to one location. Mount Baker is this massive volcano we have around Bellingham. People love it. There's plenty of other companies, Mount Baker Roofing, Mount Baker Electric, and it's kind of a theme that we have, and people are really
Hmm.
attached to it here. It's a very outdoorsy community. But if I had known that we would have the chance, that we would be so successful that we'd be able to franchise a name and expand into services, I would not have called it Mount Baker Window Cleaning. But that's another riddle to go down later.
Man, that's an awesome story right there. Holy crap. And then, so you know what then? Let me ask you this, Jackson. What do your days now look like? Are you still in the field? Do you also handle a lot of the prep work, or what do your days look like now?
Yeah, so over the past couple of years, my day to day has varied a little bit. A couple years ago, I got the company running at a point where it really did not need me, and it still doesn't need me. But the difference is, from 2 years ago to now today, I've realized that to continue to push the business and to continue to motivate my employees and get to that next level, I really
Mhm.
do need to be participating in some bits of the day to day here and there, or not even really the day to day, but the behind the scenes stuff. And for the past 2 years, I was very removed from the business, and we were doing fine. People were happy. Our clients were happier than ever. Like, we had these systems, this well-oiled machine that allowed me to escape. And I took vacations. I saw friends across the country and enjoyed my time. I really had a good time doing that. But I've been really hungry to push our business to the next level, to get more commercial work, to continue to develop my employees into managers and my managers into better managers, or maybe even a general manager one day. And so I am committing more time to the business today than I was, the same day last year. And that really, a lot of my time is spent building systems, checking in with managers, coaching them to do a better job, and just dialing things in. And then another big piece is, I want more commercial work, and that takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of time and a lot of
Wow,
energy
yeah.
to go make these connections with property managers, realtors, business owners,
Is that
HOAs.
with bidding as well?
Is that for what?
Is that with bidding as well, like bidding contracts with the government
Yeah.
and stuff like that, or is that separate?
Yeah, I mean, it's all part. You got to make the relationship first before you can send them an estimate, right? And so that's my goal right now. Eventually, I will be pulling someone from our company into that role, but I need to go out
Mm,
and make those connections right now and start harboring those relationships.
wow. Okay. So then, So it sounds like you started off doing everything yourself, then you expanded to a team, then you got so systemized, and it was you had a well-oiled machine that you didn't have to do the day-to-day anymore. So you kind of stepped back, but now you're kind of into it again, but not pressure washing or window cleaning, but just making connections and working on the business, but not in it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to once you if you're spending time working in your business, I call that anywhere from a 15 to like a $50 an hour task. If you're working in the business, working on the business, now your value is more like $100 to $500 an hour. And so the more tasks that you can do in any given day that are $100 to $500 an hour value, the more you're going to grow your company. And some of those tasks might include, yeah, relationship building with commercial accounts, uh, doing a financial audit and building a new budget, building systems for production that are going to make things easier for your technicians or maybe more efficient. And so those are the tasks that I'm really focused on now, instead of focusing on those tasks that you might be able to delegate to someone else to do for a lot cheaper than the value of your time. And it has to you have to make the conscious effort to say my time is of this much value, because if you devalue your time, you're going to have a, a rough time growing your business, because you're just not working on the things that are actually needed to push your business to the next level.
Oh, dude, I totally agree. In fact, I had a mentor tell me the same thing in my life. He mentioned that, hey, do you want to be? I mean, when you get older, like, do you want to be making $10 an hour? And I was like, no. But what are you talking about? He was like, so why are you still cooking? Why are you cleaning? And his point was that instead of doing these $10 an hour tasks, maybe you can delegate that out and focus those couple hours into something that's more profitable, right? That has the potential to make you even more money. So I
Exactly.
thought that was kind of genius, a genius way to look at it.
Right. And a big issue that I see in a lot of home service business owners, and how they operate their business, is they'll come to me and say, "Hey, I really, I'm overwhelmed with all of these tasks that I'm doing in my business, but I don't see enough meat on the bones, like enough money there to delegate someone to do that job for me." And honestly, what I've found, and this is a bit of an aggressive strategy, but there have been times in my business where I felt like that. And what I did is I went and I delegated it. I didn't see that the money was there, but I knew that if I was able to delegate those tasks so that I could immediately start working on higher value tasks, that we could
Mhm.
grow our business. And every time I have made that conscious decision to delegate these smaller value tasks, our business has grown from it. And we have found that money comes in. So, it's never going to feel good. You're never going to feel good taking that next step, because you haven't been there before, right? Like, I don't know what it's like to run a $2 million business. So getting to that point is going to feel uncomfortable. Like, I'm going to feel a twist in my gut. I'm going to feel uncertainty, and that's totally normal. It should. If it feels normal to you and you feel good about it, you're probably not doing the right things to get to that next step.
Man, that's a great way to look at it right there, Jackson. Holy shit. That's some real game right there. And let me ask you this. If you were let's say that you were gonna start Mount Baker over again today, you were gonna come back to New Jersey, which is actually where I'm from, by the way. I know you had a bad experience here with that job, but but
It's
let's
all
say you
good.
were gonna start over and you were going to start a you wanted to get your company to the same point it is right now, right? Where you guys are doing window cleaning, pressure washing, gutter cleaning, because I actually work with a lot of those industries. So what would you do differently? Like, what's the first, if you wanted to go from zero to $1 million, how would you go about
Okay, first I'd start with a different name, right? I would choose something a lot broader
that?
that has a higher ceiling than Mount Baker window cleaning. I'm not locking myself in with a location and just one service. So that could be, oh man, what's it? Elite services, just as an example. I'm sure that's taken, but you get what I'm saying. So I would choose a different name, and then secondly, I'm not sure if this is doing anything different, because I do feel like I did this, but I really need to nail this on the head. Is that don't spend all of your money on equipment to start. Like, get the bare minimum. Rent things if you have to. Where all your money should be going at the very beginning of your business is into marketing efforts, into making yourself look like a company that is far more professional and far bigger than you actually are. So that would include, a branded golf shirt like I'm wearing right now. You want one of those to go sell. You're going to need to get some door hangers, right? You're going to need to get a website. You're going to need to invest into like a Google GMB profile. Don't spend money on Google ads to begin with, but you get what I'm saying. You're going to want to build up your brand and a little bit of a presence in the town that you're in, and that's only going to happen if you have money for marketing. If you go out and spend $100,000 on a brand new truck and a washing skid, the equipment to go in it.
Hmm.
Oh man, $100,000. That's the marketing budget for $1 million company. Like if you had just spent that on marketing, you could have $1 million company.
Instead of on a brand new truck.
Yeah, but the thing is, I see a lot of people go out and they spend that $100,000 on a truck and the equipment, and then they're like, "Man, I don't have any leads. Like, is this industry any good?" And you're like, well, "Yeah, it is. You just spent $100,000 on a truck and equipment when you could have spent, half of that on marketing to grow this thing."
Yeah. Oh man, I could not agree more. I could not agree more. And what's your take on that actually, Jackson? Because I know a lot of people are reluctant, right? Because me owning a digital marketing agency, I see it all the time. I see a company that has great potential, but they're like, oh no, we rely only on word of mouth. We don't want to risk looking like one of these other companies that are out there advertising themselves. And what do you think about that point of view in their business where they don't want to advertise, they don't want to invest into their marketing? What do you think about that?
I think that they're going to have a very short-lived career. The people that are marketing are just inherently going to get more jobs and more clients than those other businesses. Like word of mouth is great. Don't get me wrong. Like I love word of mouth. We're very
Right.
heavy into getting referrals from clients and kind of becoming famous in these neighborhoods that we're working in. So that is great. But there is another aspect of this, and like you do need a strong brand to grow. Like if you're serious about growing a business and having a team, like you need a professional looking brand and you need to be advertising to reach more people than word of mouth is going to get you.
Exactly. Yeah, and that my argument to them a lot of the time is, okay, you love word of mouth, but you only have a set number of people that can recommend you, right? That can refer you. But if you start advertising and you do an amazing job for them, you'll have an infinite amount of people that those people are going to be able to refer you even more. So if in the end, if they want more referrals, they're gonna get more clients through ads, which those people would then refer them again. So
Right.
it's like it's a no doubter in my opinion. That's one of the things, and I'm glad that of course, and it's probably the reason why your business is where it is because you've not been afraid to invest into marketing and into yourself. And let me ask you now this, Jackson, segueing from that from marketing aside from marketing, what would you say is one of the things that kind of have helped you get to where you are, right? Is there a specific thing that you guys do for every client aside from doing an outstanding job? Is it like do you guys ask for referrals? Do you guys how do you go about that?
Okay, I break this into two pieces. One is that we view ourselves as a customer service based business that just happens to window clean, right? So I could have the same thought and go start a landscaping business. It wouldn't matter. I have the tools to train a team to be very, very good at serving our clients, no matter what service you're offering, whether it be window cleaning, landscaping, whatever it is, right? So that's one thing. Like we're very good at customer service, and we try to separate ourselves from the competition by
Hmm.
having so many automations set up, and having really friendly people in our office, having really friendly technicians. Which brings me to my next point would be recruiting, and this is where a ton of businesses fall short. It's an epidemic that we have like running rampant in the home service industry where business owners say there's no one good in my area. I can't find anyone to work for me. The last guy I paid, I gave him $25 an hour and he still left. And yeah, like you are having an issue with that. But it's not because that the entire world is just terrible at working, right? That no one out there can wash a window for you. You got to look deeper in yourself and say, "Hey, like what does your job ad look like? What are you offering them? How are you developing them? How are you managing them?" Right. So I guess two pieces, recruiting and managing, right? But you need to be really good at recruiting. You need to have offers that stand out to our newer generation. And if you try and go off the basis that companies have been for years, right? Going back to, let's say, like employing a baby boomer, right? Back in the day, Yeah, like they would take 20 bucks an hour, 15, it was probably less then, right? 15, 10 bucks an hour, and they'd be happy. You give them their pay, they have a nice, family, a home with that. And that's fine. But this newer generation is very into things other than just pay, right? Like you need to be able to offer a competitive pay, but you also need to offer things like personal and professional development. This new generation wants to see a clear path of like what if they're going to commit to something, they need to see what the outcome of them committing to that is going to look like. And so when you hire someone on, you say, "Hey, you're going to clean windows for me. I'm going to give you 25 bucks an hour." That's great and all, but where's that job going? Right? Like, what's your vision for the company? What's your vision for
Right.
me? Am I just going to work here for the next 5 to 10 years making $25 an hour? Or is there some light at the end of the tunnel? So, building a vision for employees, massive, absolutely massive. Being able to show someone a vision for the company where they fit into that vision is huge. So, that's why we show that when we're doing job interviews. We'll say, "Hey, by the way, like this is our company vision for the next 3 years. Like, do you see yourself fitting into this?" And if your dreams for your business are big enough for your employees' dreams to fit into, then you have a really good chance of retaining an employee and them making somewhat of a career at your business.
Wow, that's awesome right there. And how do you do that in your situation then? Like, how do you take a new brand new window cleaner or a new pressure washer? Kids 18 years old just came out of high school. How do you show them the vision, and how do you kind of persuade them in a way to kind of want to be a part of your system and a part of your business, a part of your what you have going on?
I would say it comes down to two things. One of them being we have a very unique company culture at Mount Baker Window Cleaning. So if you remember earlier when we were chatting, I said that, hey, I started to clean windows so I could have enough money to go snowboarding and enough time to go snowboarding. And today, that is still the why of the entire company. So anyone that we're hiring on, they're generally an outdoor enthusiast, whether that be a rock climber, a kayaker, a mountain biker,
Wow.
a skateboarder. And so to this day, we still hold true to why I started the business, and it's why they want to work here too. So they get paid a good wage. They've got a flexible schedule and they can go do the things that they want in the outdoors. And so if you have a why that is so true that it's hard to ignore, that's going to help draw people into the business, right? So we've got this amazing company culture with these amazing employees who get along really well, right? Because we're on this similar mission. We're on the same mission, right? Like we don't wake out of bed to go clean gutters in the rain. Like no, I don't think anyone wakes up and they're like, "Wow, it's pouring rain today. Like I can't wait to jump in this truck and like climb up a ladder and go clean these disgusting gutters." Like, that's not no one's doing that, right? So you need something that employees can get excited about, and a lot of that's going to come down to what kind of goals do you have? Like, why is everyone working here together? Do they enjoy who they're working with? Like, what are the other benefits that they're going to get from this? And so I would say that's like a massive part in it. And then the second piece would probably be development. And so right in our office, we have a big chart. It's called an organizational chart. And you can dream big with this, right? So it shows all the positions that I want to have available in a few years. So it's going
Mhm.
to include, sales, marketing, possibly HR, a shop manager, and all the other positions that we already have. So when someone comes in as a technician, I'm not saying, "Hey, man, I'm going to pay you 25 bucks an hour for the rest of your life to stay a technician." You go, "No, no, no. We're growing this business together, and all these other opportunities will be available if you want them." And so I've had employees that have started as an assistant technician, that have moved into a technician, that moved into production manager, that moved into operations manager, that then went and started their own business in another home service, which is fantastic. I've had another who has gone from assistant tech to lead tech to operations to sales, and is now going to become a lawyer. The list goes on and on and
Wow.
on, but you need to offer some sort of path of development for your employees, or else it's just a dead end job where they are just going to be cleaning gutters in the rain for 15, 20 years getting paid 25 bucks an hour, and that's all they'll see if there isn't a path laid out for them.
Wow, that's a beautiful strategy right there. That is beautiful because you don't because they can literally go and get paid $25 somewhere. I don't know how much Starbucks is paying or McDonald's is paying nowadays, but if you're just treating them like that, like, yo, here's your hourly rate, or this is all you're gonna do. they can easily replace that job with something else, right? Like I love the fact that you mentioned that you have this development board and you're like, hey, listen, we're growing this thing. This is where we're going to be. And you actually share that with them. And you're like, hey, do you want to fit this role? Because you can work toward that. And also the fact that you're so like you kind of lived their life a little bit, right? Because you, like you mentioned, you're working with snowboarders, or they want to make money in the summer so they can go and snowboard in the winter, and you've been there and you kind of promote that, right, for them to be themselves. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it's what still draws me to work in the morning, right? Because I get to hang out with this awesome team with these like-minded goals, and I think that's everyone's why, and it's really important. And a lot of businesses that don't have a why, well, you're gonna lose out on a lot of employees if they're gonna go to the next pressure washing business that pays $50 or sorry 50 cents an hour more. Like, why would they not? Unless they have
Yeah.
something deeper holding them there.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more, man. That is a beautiful way, and that made me think also about my own business, right? Some things that I can implement from that, because it's not just about that hourly rate; it's about the mission, right, and future roles that you're looking to fit other people into. I like that. And
Absolutely.
Jackson, now I want to offer some value to you because, of course, you've been giving us some incredible, incredible gems. Uh, we already talked about what you would do if you were to start over. So, what tips would you give to somebody in the same space as you across the other side of the world or across the other side of the country? What advice would you give to a window washer or a cleaning company if they want to scale? Should they systemize? What do you think? What would you advise to those guys?
Yeah, they absolutely need to build systems in their business, and they need to continue to build systems as well, because the systems that you put in place for a business doing, let's say, $40,000 a month are going to be different than the systems that you need to implement for a business that's doing $120,000 a month or $200,000 a month. And so they're constantly evolving. And your job as the business owner or the CEO is to constantly evaluate your business, and you're kind of tweaking these levers and spinning these dials, right? Turning things back, turning things on more, and adding more value to the systems that you already have. Maybe you don't need to build completely new systems, but you need to adjust them to change with the times. And so if you're sitting there and you're wondering, man, like what are systems? Like, that's a pretty broad word, right? It's anything that can be repeated in your business, right? It's any process that can be repeated in your business so that that allows you to scale, right? You can't grow a business if you don't have repeatable actions in your company that can be done day in and day out, over and over and over again.
Oof, that's gold right there. And how do you systemize then for example, the people that are actually on your team that are actually cleaning the windows, that are pressure washing? Do you systemize that as well?
Absolutely. We have a 2-week training program that everybody goes through. For the first week, they don't touch a single piece of equipment. Plenty of other companies, when they hire someone, they go, hey, jump in the truck. We're going to go clean these windows. You'll just learn as you go. I'm like, that's not what we do, because I've realized a long time ago that that just leads to chaos, and also poor expectations, right? So we've got a 2-week training program. In that training program, we're walking them through all sorts of safety training. We're doing chemical application training, right? Working at heights training. We're going through video modules. We're taking tests, and then the second week
Wow.
we're just shadowing, right? We're just shadowing other technicians and seeing what they're doing, and practicing ourselves, so that by the third week they're ready to roll out. Also included in there, we've got an employee Bible or a handbook, right? That's so many pages long. It was such a pain to write. That includes a lot of the systems. We've got SOPs. We have a daily routine checklist. Like, there's so many documents for our employees to indulge in, so that they know like exactly what they're supposed to be doing at what point in the job they're at.
Wow, that's awesome. So you really take hiring seriously, hiring and training. That's good to hear, man. Because a lot of people, like you said, just throw them in the truck, oh, learn as you go. But then, like you said, the results are not as measurable. They're not as
Right.
repeatable.
And if you look at like a company like McDonald's, like wherever you go in the United States, like that burger is going to taste the same, right? And it's the same thing for
Yeah.
a service company. Like, if you want to grow your service company, that thing needs to be repeatable wherever you're at, right? Whatever crew's doing it, whatever location it's at, it needs to come out somewhat the same. Because if it's not, you got an issue, and you need to go back and reevaluate the training and systems that you're actually giving your employees.
That's gold right there. So anybody listening, definitely go ahead and systemize, because if you want to get to doing things at the level that Jackson is doing them, you need repeatable actions. That's gold right there. I love that golden nugget. Jackson, let's go ahead and wrap it up here. So if people want to get in contact with you, whether they want to be a mentee of yours or if they want to be a client of yours, what's the best way to get in contact with you and your business?
I would say head to homeservicebusinesscoach.com. You can get more information about the coaching that I provide. And then also, I'm on Instagram. It's Home Service Entrepreneur. I just started the page, so don't judge me, but I'm really excited to start growing that this year. And so I can reach more business owners and help them accomplish, similar goals to what I've been after.
Boom. Awesome. There you guys go. That was Jackson. He owns Mount Baker Window Cleaning. He's also a coach. So if you guys should definitely reach out to him for that. He is an expert, and anybody looking to take their business to the next level, reach out to Jackson. Jackson, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. Everyone, that was another episode of the Digital Toolbox. Stay tuned. We're going to have a few more amazing guests coming onto the podcast. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Take care.